जन्माद्यस्य यतो अन्वयादितरतश्च अर्थेषु अभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः. So again, welcome all and thank you for joining the third and final part of Bhagavata Hrdayam. We have covered the first 5 skandhas of Bhagavatam, and through those 5 skandhas and through the various stories, many of which are very famous, Bhagavatam brings us again and again to the one simple realization, the realization that God alone is. As Narada says in one of his teachings in Bhagavatam to Yudhishthira, he says, Idam Sarvam Bhagavan. Everything here is Bhagavan. When we refer to the word, the English word God, sometimes it might give this connotation of someone who is away and separate from creation. But that is not the sense of the word Bhagavan or Ishvara at all. The essence of the pointer of Bhagavatam is that the creator and the creation are one. That is non-duality. The beautiful metaphor that is used in the Vedic tradition, we can say, is the metaphor of Shiva's dance. Because one of the unique qualities of this art of dance is that you cannot separate the dance and the dancer. See, any other art, I can see a painting without seeing the painter. I can hear a piece of music without seeing the singer. And so on and so forth. Every art you can think of, the art and the artist can be separate. But the only art where the art and the artist are one is the dance. The dance is the dancer is the dance. And that is the essence of non-duality. So every symbolism that is there in the Vedic tradition points to this one truth. As long as we penetrate the essence, then we come upon this truth, which is that there is only the divine that is both the movement and the stillness. When we look at creation, creation is movement. There is chala. Chala means movement. And this movement is constantly in time. And time is the only factor that is inescapable, right? We cannot escape the movement of time. It is that which keeps on rolling, whether we like it or not. We can stop anything else, we cannot stop time. Time keeps on rolling, and time has this quality which science calls as entropy, which is that things keep on changing and slowly dissolving too. This movement of time happens in the ground of stillness. So the ground in which movement happens is the awareness which is unchanging. So if we look at our own essential nature, we have both these qualities. So in some traditions, that is why it is called as Shiva and Shakti. Shakti is movement, Shiva is stillness. And Shakti's movement happens on the ground of Shiva. In fact, if you have seen the famous deity that Ramakrishna worshipped, which is called Bhavatarini, I don't know if you have seen it, but Shiva is lying on the floor and on top is Shakti as the mother. So that symbolism again shows the ground is Shiva, who's pure consciousness, who does not change. And on this ground happens the dance of Shakti. And that is the essence of all that is. So if we look at our lives, there is movement constantly. There is the body changing through time, becoming young and middle age and old age and all the rest. There is the mind that is learning new skills. All this movement is there. Underlying all this movement, there is this awareness. Awareness is that which does not change with time. If we sit silently and there is no thought, there is no identification with any memory, any knowledge, even anything, there is this still presence, what is called as simply existence. And that sense of existence, what is called in Sanskrit as astitva, just beingness, is the only thing that doesn't change with time. A rough metaphor or a example, as I think we briefly mentioned last time, is like this space in this room. The room is constantly changing, right? Even this house was not there at one point, it's here now. And in the house, there are many objects that have come, that go, all of this happens. But the one thing that does not change is the space. The space is the same, whether it's outside this house or inside the house, whether this furniture is here or not there. So that space is the subtlest element and therefore it has that quality. But subtler than space is the awareness, that which is unchanging as the silent presence. And the movement that happens is the movement that is the dance of this very energy that comes forth from the stillness. So the key pointer, therefore, is when we use the word I, we normally, in most cases, we refer to the movement. We refer to the body as I, we refer to the mind as I know this, I know that, I was this, I was that. But if you look carefully, this I is constantly changing. It's not just changing over years, it's changing even within a day. So when I'm sitting at work, the I that is there is the identity of the employee or the manager or whatever. Then I'm at family, in the house, the I is an identification with the role of a father or a husband or mother or whatever. Then if I may be watching news and then suddenly I have an identity with a nation or with um, some other ideology, let's say. And then I may even have religious identity. So I like, I've identified with a particular religion. But all of this we see is constantly changing. And therefore, when we use the word I, we see that it's only provisional because it's not a fixed entity that we are referring to when we are referring to this. But what is common across all of this is that all of this is associated with the sense I am. So anytime we say something about myself, we normally say, I am the father, or I am Indian, or I am American, or I am a manager, or whatever. So if you carefully look at it, there are two components in that sentence. There is the I am, and there is the what that comes after I am. The what that comes after I am keeps on changing, right? Even during the day, as we said. I'm the father now, and then I'm suddenly the husband now, and then I'm the manager now. But what is constant among all of this is I am. The I am doesn't change, but these identities keeps on changing. So when we ask the question, who am I? That question is simply making us look at what am I identified with. And when I recognize that all of these identities that I have taken myself to be is constantly changing, and it's only a product of memory. I can be conditioned to be liking one nation or another nation, liking one religion or another. One can change their religion, change their country, change their job, change their relationship. Everything can be changed. The only thing that cannot be changed is the sense of beingness itself. So you have to say I am to say anything after that. And that sense I am is what rises in the heart for every one of us. So when we, as we know, in all cultures, people touch their heart and take oath, right? When you say, who am I? Or when you point to say, trust me, right? Or you say, believe me, or whatever we say, we touch the heart and say this, right? Because there is an instinctive rising of the sense of I am in the heart. This is the experience of every human being. It doesn't matter where you are from, what culture. You don't, it's this is not a Hindu thing or a Christian thing. This is not an Indian thing. Everyone, whether it's the US president or the Indian prime minister, or whether it's everyone touches their heart to say, I swear. So, this I that rises in the heart is the only common factor across all humans. And this sense of I that is rising as this raw sense of presence, to come in touch with that is self inquiry. When we negate by asking the question, who am I? And completely let go of all the other identities that I have acquired. That is why self inquiry is a process of losing. We're not gaining anything. We don't have to gain because we are already what we are. We only have to lose the false identities that we have identified with, and we think that we are that. I'm so strongly identified with a country and I'm going to war for that. Or I'm so strongly identified with my relationship and I'm getting attached because of that, and I'm getting anxious and I'm worried and all of this. So, all of this is causing suffering. Every attachment causes suffering because we are believing this narrative that I am X or I am Y or I am Z. So, to inquire into that is to see if this X and Y and Z are true, or is the sense of I am the only truth that you can actually be sure of. And when we recognize this, that all of this X, Y, and Z are just coming and going, but the factor of I am, so when we rise up, when we wake up in the morning, first thing out of deep sleep, the first thing that comes up, if you are very careful at that moment, is the sense of existence itself. In deep sleep, it dissolves into the source of stillness. And then it comes out of that stillness as the sense I am. So when we go back, that's why Ramana Maharshi had this nice expression. He said in Tamil, Vanda valiye sel. It means go the way you came. So the way we come out is we come out as I am first. This pure stillness that is here, this achala, rises as I am in the heart. And this I am immediately goes to the head and identifies with some memory and says, I am this. So the process of inquiry is to reverse that by asking the question, who am I? And negate all this mental memory based identities. So we come to this pure raw presence I am. And when we stay with this raw presence I am, then that dissolves into pure stillness. And that stillness is Shiva, it's Achala, it's Brahman, whatever term we call it. And that rises up as this movement. So the spontaneous rising as I am. And then all these activities that are happening out of that is Shakti. So this wondrous power, as Ramana puts it in a beautiful way, he says mind is this Shakti, wondrous power. It spontaneously rises as I am, and it goes into all these various branches in terms of, so if you can look at it like a tree, the root of the tree, the ground is the stillness from which the root comes up as I am. And from this is this big tree with all the various branches and fruits and all the various activities. Our problem is we are identified with the branch. At any given time, we are identified with some branch and we think that is what I am. But if we recognize that all of this is an expression of the power that's rising from the ground of stillness, and this ground of stillness is ever present, and it rises spontaneously as I am in the hearts of everyone, and it brings forth activity. So perceptions happen. I'm seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. I'm thinking, speaking, doing. All of these are happening by this power, this Shakti that is coming forth. Science is trying to understand, and it has done a great job in understanding some aspects, but still there is so much that's beyond the realm of understanding because it's such a infinite power. Like for example, even in this universe, they say what is called dark matter is the vast majority of matter which science doesn't understand. So this infinite power that is there, it makes seeing happens, it makes hearing, it makes all the perceptions, actions, everything happen. And we falsely rise up as this sense of identity, which is claiming ownership of all these actions, saying, I am seeing, I am thinking, it's my action, it's my idea, and all the rest. So, the whole process of both inquiry and devotion is to recognize that this power that's rising forth, which acts spontaneously on its own and makes all actions possible, which rises from our own heart and which is rooted in the stillness of being, is all there is. And that recognition, we used the word recognition some time back, that recognition, there is a nice word in Sanskrit called pratyabhijna. So this recognition is what realization is. Recognition, as the word, even English word, means recognizing, which means it's already here. Cognizing means we are learning something new, but it's not new, it's already here. So we are only recognizing. We have just lost track of it, so we have to recognize. So that's recognition, and that recognition is what is the pointer of Bhagavatam. So in every stuti, in every prayer, in every story, this recognition is what Bhagavatam gives, is that it's the divine that comes forth. Last time we saw the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, which gives the same clarity, that it's Bhagavan alone before creation, Bhagavan alone during creation, Bhagavan alone after creation. It's put it in a different way. Gaudapada, that's why says, that which was not and that which will not be is not there even now. It's a very Zen-like statement. So if something keeps changing, it has no reality because it's constantly changing. You cannot even touch it and say this is it, because the moment you touch it, it's already something else. The only thing that's unchanging is the source and the power that comes from the source. So all that is here is only Bhagavan. That is why the ground of stillness and the power that emanates from the stillness which makes this universe function. Whether we call that power as in some uh, traditions we call it Maya, in some it's called Shakti. It's the name is in Gita, for example, Krishna uses the word Prakriti, which is also another name for the same. In fact, interestingly, yesterday I came across this uh, notion, which is very interesting, that the word mother, we all know. The word mother comes from the Sanskrit word matra. So many English words are coming through Latin and Greek from Sanskrit, Sanskrit being the root of Indo-European languages. The word matter, he said, comes from the same root as matra. And matter is nothing but the mother, because it's the divine energy, right? When we say spirit and matter, Shiva and Shakti, Purusha and Prakriti, we always use the Prakriti in feminine. Purusha is masculine, Prakriti is feminine, Shiva and Shakti. Right? So that is what the English word matter to is. It's coming from the same root mother, which is to say matter is nothing but the divine mother. And the spirit, which is the source of matter, is the source, is the uh, supreme being. So there is a beautiful prayer here, which with which we'll enter into Bhagavatam. Swastyastu Vishwasya Kalaf Prasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodiya Manascha Bhadram Bhajatad Adhokshaje Aveshyatam no Matirapya Haituki. So this is a prayer actually rendered by Prahalad, whose story we will enter very soon. So it's such a beautiful prayer. When we come upon this recognition that everything here is divine, then there is no envy, there is no comparison, there is no ill will towards anyone. There is only love and compassion towards all. Comparison goes, compassion comes. So that's why he says, Swastyastu Vishwasya. Let the whole universe be happy. Khalaf Prasidatam. All envy, all negative feelings, may they all be pacified. Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodhiya. May all beings contemplate on auspiciousness. Shiva also means auspiciousness. Let them all contemplate on what is auspicious. Manascha Bhadram Bhajatad Adhokshaje. Let the mind always glorify this transcendent being. Adhokshaja means one who is beyond the senses. Let the mind always contemplate this transcendent being. Aveshyatam no matirapya haituki. May the intellect be in unconditional love, ahaituki. So this prayer symbolizes the entire spirit of Bhagavatam. It's a very beautiful prayer. When we have this prayer, that's why, see, many times in spiritual journey, we want to realize, right? As long as that attitude is there, that is still the sense of me that says I have to realize. As I think said in the very first talk, when someone said I want moksha, Ramana Maharshi said leave the I, leave the want, then moksha is already here. So when we flip it around and we have this prayer in our heart where we wish well-being for all universe, that's why many of the prayers of the Vedas, we are wishing well-being for all, because when we wish well-being for all, that removes the I very easily. We don't have to try to, because the effort to get rid of the I is the I. Right? So that's the conundrum here. So a beautiful metaphor given by Ramana Maharshi is it's the thief taking the role of a cop saying, I'm going to catch the thief. That is what is the I that says, I'm going to be free of the I. That will never happen. The thief will never catch himself. He's not interested in that. So the way to go around it is not to get caught in the sense of me wanting realization, but recognizing that realization is all that is here now. And that comes through love. So when we express this prayer of divine love for all, we'll find that that naturally removes the me. When we have this love for all, when we wish even the most heinous person we see, let's say, we wish them peace. Like he says, Kala Prasidatam. People who are in envy, in anger, in negativity, people who are even engaging in terrorism, all of them, we send them blessings. We send them our wishes of peace. That very act of sending the wishes of peace and love completely transforms our own being without any effort. So that's the beauty of this such a prayer. So then we have this beautiful story of Ajamila. Everybody, or at least most of you, must have heard of this. This comes in the sixth skanda. Ajamila this is the story of the power of Harinam, or the name of God. So Ajamila is well known as he was a Brahmana who fell to the temptation of a lewd woman in the village, and he left his family. He got trapped in her snare, and he completely lost track of all his previous spiritual leanings and his piety and all of that. But the only thing he did was he named his last child as Narayana, and he lived this life this way, constantly looking for making more money, pleasing his concubine, and so on. And the moment of death arrives. And when it arrives, out of his attachment to his last son, he calls, O Narayana. And it is said that because he called the name Narayana at the moment of passing, the Yamadutas who come there, the messengers of death, as it were, they are countered by the messengers of Vaikuntha in a very figurative way to reveal that the fact that he has taken the name of the Lord, Narayana, which is such a powerful name, means he deserves a second chance. You cannot take him to death and go make him go through otherwise what he was ordained to go through, but he is meant to be given a second chance. And there is a beautiful debate between the two, because the Yamadutas argue that he has this, look at this fellow, he's wretched, he has done all this nonsense. How can you say that he deserves a second chance? But then the Vishnu Dutas, they say, whatever it might be, they say, Patitaks Kalito Bhagnaha Sandashtas Tapta Ahataha Harir iti Aveshanaha Puma na arhati yatanaha. He says, may he be a fallen person, even if a person while falling down, while stumbling, while getting bitten, getting injured, if he just says the name Hari once, he deserves a second chance, he deserves to be given grace. So that is the power of the holy name. And then it is said that these Yamadutas go to Yama and they report to Yama that this is what has happened. And the Yamaduta says, see, I have power over all the people except those who are surrendered to the Lord. So when you come across anyone who is surrendered to the Lord, stay away. So this is a way of saying again that if we take the name with love, see, he didn't even take the name with love. He just took the name Narayana out of his attachment to his son. Even that gave him a second chance, it is said. Only to emphasize that the name is not different from the thing that it's referring to. So the name is, even in this material world, the name and the thing are always together, right? It is name that gives form. And the divine is not different from the name. So when we ascribe the name, especially if the name is something that we connect with from our heart, and that name is taken with love, then that name has the effect of purifying the heart and bringing forth this realization very effortlessly. Bhagavatam in many places, that's why emphasizes this power of Nama Sankirtana, taking the name and singing with love. The important thing there is not to do it mechanically, but to sing it with love. See, when we sing the name, many times when we do japa, people, for example, make it another mechanical exercise where the mind is wavering here and there, and we are just doing rounds and finishing rounds. That is again like Ajamila, that's still, just saying the name has its own value. But when we take the name with love, when we sing the name, when we say Harinam with love and just become one with the music, and that's why that's the essence of music. See, many times people, when they sing, they focus more on the form and the outer aspects. In fact, one of the things that many people don't realize is that, see, the word raga literally means attachment, right? So raga, dvesha, we say, attachment and hatred. And Krishna says, stay away from raga and dvesha. So if you focus on the raga, you are caught in attachment. That is the exact meaning of the word. The purpose of music is not raga. The purpose of music is nama, is the divine. The raga is just a vehicle to bring the name to our heart. But many times I see people who are focused on the raga and they are not focused on the sahitya, the meaning, which is the essence of the music. This is in Sanskrit, every word is very powerful. If you just know the word and go to the essence, the word raga itself reveals that it's attachment. So don't stay with the raga, but transcend the raga is the pointer here. So sing with love. Then comes the story of Vritrasura, very beautiful story of Bhagavatam. Vritrasura is an asura, as the name suggests. And there is a story behind it. Why? So Indra, see, one of the things we see in Bhagavatam is that Indra always does many nasty things, right? So even in, we see the famous Govardhana Leela where Indra tries to inundate Vrindavan with water. And see, because Indra represents this sometimes the sattvic arrogance that comes. See, Indra symbolizes the asuras and the devas are again within this realm of duality. And sometimes the sattvic arrogance can be more dangerous than the tamasic arrogance, which is what Indra represents. So because of that arrogance, he sometimes does many nasty things, but then for the order of the universe, many times he is given the upper hand because good prevails over the bad. But then that's a cycle. Sometimes good is subdued by the bad. So that cycle goes on. So when Indra uh, does some nasty things, especially in this case, because of that, a great rishi, he produces this asura called Vritrasura with the express intention of killing Indra. But this Vritrasura, because Vritrasura is so powerful, Indra goes and prays, and then he is given a special weapon. That's how he gets this thunderbolt, Vajra. So there is a massive battle between the Asuras and the Devas, and finally there is a duel, what you call a mano a mano between Indra and Vritrasura, one on one. And there is a massive fight between the two. Vritrasura is fighting so valiantly. Indra is in fact amazed by his fight because Indra sees this Asura fighting without running away, facing him. His arms are being cut. He's still fighting. Whatever happens, he's still fighting. And then Indra is looking at this Vritrasura and wondering where his power is coming from. And he does whatever he does, he's constantly coming back and fighting. But then finally, Vritrasura realizes that he's going to face his end. He realizes what is ordained, that ultimately Indra is going to win this battle. So at that time, suddenly, to the great shock of Indra, Vritrasura utters a prayer. This prayer is one of the most famous prayers of Bhagavatam. He says, Nanaka prishtam nachaparameshtyam nasarva bhaumam na rasadipatyam na yoga siddhir apunar bhavamva samanjatva virahaya kankshe. He says, I'm going to die now. I do not want any heavenly regions when I die. I do not want the abode of Brahma. I do not want sovereignty over the whole earth, sarva bhaumam. I do not want even liberation from rebirth, na apunar bhavamba. Because if any of this means separation from you, O my Lord, I don't want any of that. I only want to be with you. And how I want to be with you, he says another verse. This is such a beautiful poetic verse. He says, Ajata paksha iva mataram kagaha stanyam yata vatsara kshudhartaha priyam priyeva vyushitam vishanna mano aravindaksha didrikshate tvam. He says, O Arvindaksha, O lotus-eyed Lord. Arvindaksha means one with lotus eyes, right? He says, Ajata paksha iva mataram khagaha. As a young bird, fledgling bird, cries for the mother bird. Stanyam yatha vatsatara kshudhartaha. That is a young calf that wants milk. As the young calf cries for the mother's milk, the udder of the mother. Priyam priyeva vishutam vishanna. As a beloved, when the beloved has gone to war or gone out of town and the wife is sitting at home and she's yearning to be reunited with her beloved. This way I am yearning to be one with you, Aravindaksha. So this is the prayer he offers, such a beautiful prayer of love. And when and then Indra sure enough kills him. And when he kills it is said that Vritrasura's, the light from his being goes and merges into the Lord and he is liberated. So this is the story of Vritrasura, a very beautiful story. Now Parikshit asks a question. Parikshit is the listener of this Bhagavatam, as we know. Parikshit is amazed, as I'm sure everyone is. So he asked Shuka Brahman the question, how is it possible that this Vritrasura has such devotion? He's a demon after all. How is he having such devotion? So then the backstory is given of Vritrasura's backstory, which is that there was a king called Chitraketu. And it's a very beautiful story on dispassion. This Chitraketu was a great king, had all the powers, all the wealth, he had many wives, everything that was anything that a man could desire, a king could desire, he had it. Except one thing, he didn't have a son, he didn't have children. So he was worried, as many kings are, that I don't have anyone to continue my line. So he was very much in this state when the sage Angira comes to the kingdom. And the sage Angira comes and he offers his respects and everything. And then when sage Angira comes and says, I see that something is wrong with you. What is wrong? And then, sure enough, Chitraketu says, I have everything, but I don't have one thing, which is that I don't have a son. So Angira tells him, the sage tells him, I can give you a son. He will give you a lot of happiness and he'll give you a lot of suffering. Chitraketu immediately says, yes, give me, it's okay. See, this is the trap we all have, right? Knowing anything we get will always come with suffering, but instantly we ignore it. We just want it, because that's why they say be careful what you want, right? Because what you want is the problem. It's not when you get what you want, you realize that's not what really you wanted. So that's what Chitraketu did. He wanted a son badly. The sage warned him, don't go for it. Well, he said, you will get happiness and sadness. So he said, no, no, give me. So immediately he gave a portion, preparation, and it was given to his first wife, and she drank, and immediately she was pregnant. And then, sure enough, the whole kingdom was celebrating, and everyone was happy. And then 9 months later, the child is born, and the whole kingdom is celebrating. There is so the king is in unspeakable bliss. He's happy because the only thing that was missing is fulfilled. So he is so joyous. But sure enough, as always happens when such things happen, something else is cooking on the side. So all his other wives, they are very jealous of this first wife, because what has happened is, in this process, the wife who gave birth to the child became the apple of the eye of not just the king but the entire kingdom. So all the other wives were ignored. And he had many wives, as we said. Initially, he was very proud that he had many beautiful wives. But now the very same uh, source of pride for him now became the source of suffering, because all these wives became so envious of this uh, principal queen now, who became the darling of the whole kingdom. So it went on. They were burning with envy, burning with envy. And then one day, they came upon the most devious scheme, which is hard to even say. They decided that all this glory is coming to this queen because of this child. So let's kill this child. So these other women, other wives, they make a poison and they feed it to this young baby who's hardly 2 or 3 years old when the baby is alone. The baby, sure enough, dies. And the queen comes and she sees this baby is motionless. She starts wailing. And then Chitraketu comes and you can imagine, he was at the height of joy. He's dragged to the pit of misery now, because the one thing that was giving him everything he thought is taken away. What he wanted, as the sage warned, would give him suffering. He didn't realize it. Now it exactly happened as ordained. The daughter was, the son was taken away, and he was in unspeakable misery. When this unspeakable misery was there, again the sage came. Angira came with Narada. And he told him, at that time when he was in such great misery, naturally there was great vairagya that arose in him, dispassion towards the world. And at that time, Narada gave him instructions that, listen, in this world, everything comes together and goes apart. This is the nature of the world. He gives a beautiful example. Actually, one of the examples that's given in Bhagavatam is, if you go to if you see in Ganga, there will be logs of wood floating together for some time. And then a big wave or something will come and they will all go in different directions. And then they will form different groups and they will float. He said, this is how people are. This flow is time. You think you are going together with a bunch of people. Something will come and separate you in four directions. Either it is death, or it is someone getting married and leaving, or going to a different town. Whatever happens, that unit gets separated. And then another unit gets formed somewhere. This is the law of life. You get attached to one unit and say this will last forever. It will never last forever. And in this particular case, of course, it was so instantly snatched as a young baby. So he says, this is the law of nature, that things that come will go. See, this is why what is important to always realize is we were talking about it too. That's why realization is not something that comes. See, anything that comes will go, including our knowledge, including our experiences. See, many people many times are caught in experiences. I had this great experiences can be had even with drugs. Realization is not an experience. Realization is that which always is. That which doesn't come and go is the only realization. Anything that comes will always go. So whether it be experiences, whether it be people. So if we hold everyone with that recognition, with love, without attachment, see, it doesn't mean that we act in a callous way. Naturally not, right? So the thing is, every moment is precious in and of itself. So each moment, I don't know what the next moment is going to be. So this moment, the form in which the divine has come, whether it be in the form of a son or a daughter or a stranger on the street, you give them full attention and full love and do what you can for them and not carry anything forward. If you live in this way, moment to moment, then there is true expression of love, and it comes in the form of responsibility. So if there is a son or a daughter, we do what we need to be done without expecting that this will do something for me, or with I'll gain something out of it, or they will do this and they will make my name greater, living through them, living, this idea of living vicariously through my children, making them achieve things I couldn't achieve. So many things we do with parenting because of this attachment. But if we just let them be and say, I give them full unconditional love and support without any expectation, then there can be true love in parenting, in teaching, in all relationships. So that's what is advised to Chitraketu, that you are attached and you got suffering because of that. So now you got this opportunity, realize this truth. So he is given this Upadesha, he realizes the truth. And he is freed now from all these attachments. But there is another very interesting thing that happens, which is again a subtle lesson in Bhagavatam, that every story in Bhagavatam gives a subtle lesson. So this Chitraketu becomes such a great yogi now. He's got all these, because he's freed now from all his attachments, he's freed from his kingdom, and he's roaming around as a yogi. He's able to go anywhere, and it is said that he could go to Kailash when he wants to. So he goes to Kailash, and there he sees Shiva sitting there giving instructions to a bunch of disciples. So what always Shiva is shown as giving Upadesha, because that is why Shiva is the Adi Guru, Dakshinamurti, right? So, but the thing there is, what he sees is, on Shiva's lap is Parvati, and Shiva is sitting Parvati on his lap and giving advice. So this Chitraketu, out of the subtle conditioning he had, went to criticize Shiva. He said, you are publicly keeping your wife in your lap when you are giving Upadesha. Is this the right way to do it? And so what he did not realize was the pure expression coming from Shiva, who is one with Parvati, and the sacred nature of that union. See, one of the things that's very important in that's why in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, every aspect of life is sacred if we see it correctly. The union of a husband and wife is the most sacred union if it's seen correctly. But if we have some conditioning which makes us criticize it, which if we think that this is only for someone who is renounced, and in many cases you will see that people who are renounced, they are actually having, in Krishna uses this word in Bhagavad Gita, he says they are hypocrites many times because their desires are within and they are not able to express it. And unfortunately, you see this a lot even today, right? So many people who take on the robe, they have not actually gotten rid of the desires they have, Outer robe is there, inwardly they are focusing on the sense objects. And so, on the other hand, there may be a grihastha who is completely free within, and he has a very dharmic relationship with his wife, and he is living this life with purity. Then he is realized. So that's why Krishna gives the example of Janaka and many others in the Gita too, right? Of people who are realized without needing to go through any outer change. And that's why when any time when people came to Ramana Maharshi, he would say, what is your true essence cannot be found by changing anything outwardly. If it is meant to change outwardly, you will change anyway. That's okay. There are some who go through this because they are ordained to go through this. But that is not a prerequisite for realization. True sannyasa is recognition and giving up of the doership within. As Krishna says in the Gita, anashita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yah sa sannyasi sa yogi cha na niragnir na cha akriyah. Krishna says, anashita karma phalam, the one who is not attached to karma phalam and who does the karma, he is a sannyasi. Na niragnir, the one who has given up Agni is not necessarily a sannyasi. So, in this case, Chitraketu made this mistake of criticizing Shiva, and because of that, Parvati tells him that you are going to be born an Asura. And then Shiva actually, out of his compassion, says, oh, he doesn't deserve it. He is such a beautiful soul. He is a divine being. He made a mistake. But then it cannot be taken back. So it is told that you will be an Asura, but you will have deep devotion to the Lord, and you will have that life and you will reunite with the Lord. So that is why he is born as Vritrasura. And he had that devotion, it is said. So with this, we enter the seventh skanda, which is the beautiful. See, in Bhagavatam, we normally say heart of Bhagavatam is 10th skanda, which is true, which is the essence of Bhagavatam, Dashama skanda. But if there is a heart of Bhagavatam before the heart of Bhagavatam, it is 7th skanda, because it is Prahalada's story of Narsimha. It is the most beautiful story that will that is very hard to even say it, because it's such a loving story of this young boy who embodies true devotion, true wisdom, true compassion, true dispassion, everything. So the story is well known to everyone. Hiranyakashipu is this demon who is the brother of Hiranyaksha. And after Hiranyaksha is killed, Hiranyakashipu, first of all, one interesting thing Bhagavatam reveals is Hiranyakashipu, when Hiranyaksha is dead, all of them are grieving. Hiranyakashipu goes and tells them, why are you grieving? He gives them Atma Jnana. He tells them, the body is dead, but Hiranyaksha is not this body. Why are you grieving? There's nothing to grieve for, and all this. So the instruction given by Bhagavatam is, even Hiranyakashipu can speak Vedanta. So Vedanta is not the words, it's the living, right? How you live is what is Vedanta. Knowing and talking about it can be done by even Hiranyakashipu. After doing this Vedanta Pravachanam, he goes, and what he does, he goes and says, I am going to become invincible so that I can rule this whole earth. So he does this Kathor tapas, as we all know. And he does this tapas, and Brahma comes and he says, I want immortality. And of course, Brahma says, I cannot give you that. That's the one thing I cannot give you. Ask whatever you want. So this Hiranyakashipu makes this very elaborate boon, as many of you know. He says, I want to make sure that I'm not killed by a human or an animal in day or night, inside or outside, not by any weapon, and so on and so forth. So he makes all these conditions, and Brahma says, so be it. So because of that, Hiranyakashipu becomes invincible. He is killing all the devas. So as we said, the cycle of good and bad. In some times, the good is dominating, and the other times the bad is dominating. The cycle continues. So in this case, Hiranyakashipu is dominating. It says all the devas are in hiding. The whole universe is dominated by him. Everyone has to chant the name of Hiranyakashipu. And the beauty of symbolism of Bhagavatam is, see, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranya means gold. Kashipu means bed. So what does the ego want? It wants money and lust. That's what Hiranyakashipu represents. The very name symbolizes the ego. Hiranyakashipu means seeking wealth and lust. So that's what and that's what he is. That's his religion. His religion is everybody should be after, the what they call the merrymaking, right? Eat, drink, and be happy kind of a philosophy. That's Hiranyakashipu. So he is propagating this philosophy to the whole kingdom, and everybody is following it. But as always beautifully happens, right in his home is born Prahalada, who is so devoted to Bhagavan, to Narayana, and it is a mystery how he is so devoted. It says that Prahalada, whether he is sitting, walking, eating, drinking, whatever he does, Asinah Pariyatan Ashyan Shayanah Prapiban Bruvan Na Anusandatah Etani Govinda Parirambitah. So he is only thinking of Govinda. Whatever he does, his constant, his consciousness is always filled with the Supreme Lord. Why is this? So this is asked by Parikshit. How is this possible? So it is said that the story is when Hiranyakashipu was doing this Kator Tapas, his wife was living by herself, and the Devas thought this is the time to attack because Hiranyakashipu is in the tapas, and we have to kill all the Rakshasas. So they kill all the Rakshasas, and they come and see that his wife is pregnant. So Indra wants to kill the child too, that the unborn child in this woman. But Narada comes at the time and says, no, no, this child is a special child. You should not touch this child. And immediately Indra obeys Narada and goes away. Then Indra, it is said, takes her to his ashram to give her protection and gives instructions on the truth, on Bhagavan. And that instruction is received by this child in the womb. And that is why Prahalad comes out born as a jnani, born as a bhakta. So when Prahalad grows up, Hiranyakashipu sends him to the school. The school is the demon school. So see, when we say these, all of these are symbolic. The schools that are there, the modern education system is exactly what Hiranyakashipu schools are. It's basically about making money and maximizing sense pleasures and not having and comparing, competing, always trying to get ahead of the other person, conditioning to a rat race. All the things we do, this is the Hiranyakashipu school system. That is where he sends all the children to, and this Prahalad is also sent there. But Prahalad, of course, would have none of it. So Prahalad not only doesn't listen to this teaching, he instructs them on what is the true wisdom. So Prahalad comes back after the first year in the school, and Hiranyakashipu lovingly takes him and says, "Oh, my son, come, sit him on his lap." And he says, "Okay, tell me, what did you learn in the school?" So Prahalad says, and this is a bombshell, he says, it's a beautiful verse, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. He says, the purpose of life is to do one of these 9 things. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Hiranyakashipu loses his mind. He says, where did you learn all this? See, here it's one important thing to notice before we go further is each of these 9 processes, Bhagavatam itself has the most beautiful examples of who embodies these processes. Shravanam is just listening with complete dedication. And Parikshit, who listens to Bhagavatam, is the exemplar of Shravanam. Kirtanam is to sing the glory of the Lord with clarity wherein there is no division between wisdom and devotion. Bring the unity of jnana and bhakti every step of the way. That is what Shuka Brahmam does. That is Kirtanam. Vishnu Smaranam is the example given by Prahalad himself. Prahalad is always, as we saw, sitting, talking, eating, drinking. He is always in Govinda Smaranam. Pada Sevanam means adoring the lotus feet of the Lord. And it has multiple meanings. One is literally adoring the lotus feet as Mahalakshmi does, it is said. But the other is, what is the feet of the Lord? The feet of the Lord is nothing but the devotees of the Lord. So to serve the devotees, to be the devotee of the devotee is Pada Sevanam. And there are many examples in Bhagavatam of those who are devotee of devotees. Archanam is doing yajna and formal worship. There is a story of Prithu Maharaj, who is a great, he did 99 yajnas, it is said, and he is the reason why it's called Prithvi. The land is called, the earth is called Prithvi because of Prithu. So this Prithu is Archanam. Vandanam is literally falling at the feet, offering obeisances. And the best example of this is Akrura. Later we'll see in 10th Skanda that Akrura is such a great devotee. He comes from Mathura to Vrindavan. So Kamsa sends Akrura thinking that he'll get Krishna and Balaram. And Akrura enters, we'll see this in 10th Skanda when you come to this, such a beautiful episode. Akrura enters Vrindavan with his, he's just in this ecstasy because he's going to get the darshan of Krishna. And before he comes to the banks of Ganga, and he sees the feet of Krishna there imprinted on the sands of the banks of Yamuna. And he literally falls right there, Shashtangam, at the sand that is got the imprint of Krishna. And everywhere he sees the feet of Krishna, he puts his head down and offers his obeisances and goes. And finally, he sees Krishna in the courtyard. It's very beautiful scene. He finally enters this courtyard, and it's the evening time. Sun has set, and Krishna has come back from grazing the cows with Balaram. They have changed their clothes. Krishna is wearing this beautiful yellow silk. Balaram is wearing this blue silk. They are tending to the cows, and Akrura enters this courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, and he literally falls at his feet, and that's how Akrura expresses his devotion. So that's Vandanam. Dasyam, everybody knows who exemplifies Dasyam. It's Hanuman. Hanuman shows what it is to be a servant of the Lord by constantly thinking of only one thing, which is how to serve Ram. How can I make Ram happy? There is no consideration of what I want. That is the lesson from Hanuman. It's only what the Lord wants. What does Ram want? Sakyam is, of course, Arjuna, the greatest example of friendship. And then finally, Atmanivedam. Atmanivedanam is offering one's own life to the Lord, which is Bali Maharaja. We'll see that story. To Bali, who offers his own head to the Lord when Vamana becomes Trivikrama. So this is the verse that Prahalad belts out. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Sparanam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. So Hiranyakashipu first calls the teachers, and he really yells at them. He is almost about to kill them, but the teachers say, no, we didn't teach any of this. This boy is learning. I don't know where he is learning it from. So you please give us another chance. So they take him again to the school. And when they take him again to the school, there Prahalad gives advice to these boys. Again, Prahalad sits these boys around, and he starts giving them the same advice. He is giving more and more. He says, in this life, human life, one ought to live always in accordance with Bhagavata Dharma right from childhood. See, this is the important. Many times people think, oh, this can come after retirement or this or that, But Bhagavata Dharma means living in accordance with this recognition that the divine alone is. Therefore, not comparing, not competing, not trying to get ahead of the other, but seeing how we can all be together. And it's very practical in all situations. At work, are we in the mode of comparing, or are we in the mode of collaborating, right? Truly bringing out the best, celebrating see, when we see the uniqueness of everyone is unique. No matter whom you bring, he is going to have something that I cannot do. He is going to not have something that I can do. So the truth is, I am not superior to anyone, and I am not inferior to anyone. So if you recognize this, then there is samatvam. We always think someone is superior. We either like to put someone on a pedestal, or we put down people. And both of this comes out of ego. The one who puts someone on a pedestal and the one who puts people down. We recognize that everyone is unique, being an expression of the divine. then that's true education. Then we bring out the greatness of everyone, we celebrate. So that's what Prahalada teaches these boys. He says you have to without live in this Bhagavata Dharma from childhood, and that means surrender to the Lord. So all of this comes only when you recognize that the source is one. There is no me or you, there is only Bhagavan who appears as all of us. So when you recognize this only, this comparison, this getting ahead of the other person, this gossiping, all this goes away only when we recognize that Bhagavan alone is in all forms. So that teaching is what Prahalad gives. And he says the nature of this Bhagavan, he beautifully says, Kevala Anubhavananda Swarupaha Parameshwaraha. Tasmat Sarveshu Bhuteshu Dayam Kuruta Sauhrutam. See, it's very simple Sanskrit. Sarveshu Bhuteshu Dayam Kuruta. Just have compassion towards all living entities. That is the Dharma. That is Bhagavata Dharma. See, Bhagavata Dharma, or true essence of Vedanta, true essence of self realization, whatever we call it, is ultimately living with love and compassion towards all. If it doesn't flower as love and compassion, it's only textual knowledge. True Vedanta will flower as love and compassion. That's what here Prahalad says. Dayam kuruta sarveshu bhuteshu dayam kuruta sauhridam. That comes out when you recognize that Bhagavan alone is. And the nature of this truth he describes so beautifully as the one all-pervading supreme. See, all of these verses of Prahalad are pure essence of the Upanishads. He says, Atma Nitya Avyayah Shuddha Eka Kshetrajna Ashrayah Avikrayah Swadruk Hetur Vyapako Asangi Anavritah. Every single word, for those who recognize, is Atma, the pure self, is Avyayah, Shuddha, Ekah, Ashraya. So all of it is the support of all. It is one, it is pure, it is unchanging, it is undecaying, it is eternal. This is the essence of our true nature. And therefore, exclusive devotion to the Lord, to the one supreme being who appears as all of this, is true dharma. And he says very beautifully again to emphasize, he says exclusive devotion to Govinda is the same as beholding him in every living entity. And this is alone declared as the purpose of living. See, seeing Bhagavan as every living entity, that is the purpose of living. This is what Prahalada gives as the essence of Bhagavata Dharma. And then he says, therefore, recognize that everything comes from Bhagavan. It's a very beautiful verse. He says, Yasmin yato yarihi yenacha yasya yasmad yasmai yata yadrik yastu aparah parova bhava karoti vikaroti pritak swabhavah sanjotita sad akhilam bhavatah swarupam. He says, the Sanskrit is also so beautiful. He says, Yasmin, in whatever form, Yatha, however, Yasmat, from wherever. So, in other words, anything that comes in whatever form, in whichever way, from wherever, however, whoever, he says, everything is Bhavataha Swarupam. It's all your form, it's all the divine form. So, if you recognize this, then we are free. Otherwise, we are caught in this duality of even wanting to realize as a duality. When we recognize that everything is Bhagavat Swarupam, then there is nobody here to realize. There is only the Swarupam. So this is what Prahalad gives as the advice to these demon boys. And then he comes back again to Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu again asks him, and now he says even more emphatically, and now these teachers say, see, I told you, we didn't, in fact, he is polluting all the other boys. He's teaching all this to them, and they're also, all the, when we go out and come back, they're all singing Govinda, Govinda. So the teachers are complaining to Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu now realizes, this is it, I'm done with this fellow. So he tries to literally kill him. So he says, I'm going to put him to death. He asks elephants to be run on him, puts snakes on him. He asks his sister Holika to kill him. Nothing touches Prahalad. And then finally Hiranyakashipu is frustrated with this young Prahalad. So he says, he calls him back to the court and he says, what is it that makes you so arrogant? And Prahalad says very simply, oh father, That which makes me speak is what makes you speak also, and that is Narayana. So he is like, now he is complete. So he says, okay, I'm going to take it in my hand. So he says, he takes up his mace, Gada, and he says, I'm going to kill you now. So let me see, where is your Narayana? I'm going to kill you. Let me see if he will protect you. Where do you think he is? He says he's everywhere. Don't I don't have to go look for him anywhere. See, the story of Narsimha is the story of pure Advaita, because he says wherever you see there is Narsimha. So he says Bhagavan is everywhere. At that time he doesn't know the form of Narsimha, he just knows Bhagavan. He says, then he points to a pillar and says, as we all know, he says, do you think he's in this pillar? And he says, yes, he's in this pillar too, he's in that stone too, he's in that rock too. As they in Tamil, there is a famous expression, Thunilum iruppan, Turumbilum iruppan. That is, he is in a pillar, he's also in a small particle, he is everything. So Hiranyakashipu takes this mace and smashes this pillar, and then out comes this glorious form of Narsimha. And he is so ferocious. Narsimha is the embodiment of fierce grace. He is so fierce looking and he is full of grace. And he is perfectly having the form that is necessary to kill Hiranyakashipu, because he is half man, half lion. So he is neither a man nor an animal. He's got no weapons but his own nails, nakam. And it's neither morning nor evening. And he takes him, lifts him up, and he puts him on his lap. So he is neither on earth nor in sky. And then he takes him to the entrance of the palace. So it's neither inside nor outside. He seats him there and he just tears him apart. And this Hiranyakashipu tearing apart, it may look very gory, but that is actually the greatest grace that can happen, because Hiranyakashipu is within us. This ego is Hiranyakashipu. And Prahalada is the devotion that's also within us. When we awaken Prahalada, then Narsimha as grace comes and destroys this sense of ego within us. And that's the inner symbolism of the story of Hiranyakashipu being killed by Prahalada, being killed by Narsimha. And then Prahalad, then after that, see, it says that Hiranyakashipu, after he is being killed like this, Narsimha is still in a very ferocious form, Ugra Narsimha. Nobody dares go near him, including Lakshmi, it is said. So the only person who can go near him is Prahalad himself. So they say, Brahma says to Prahalada, you go and pacify this Lord now. So Prahalad goes to him and he offers a stuti. It's such a beautiful prayer, and he says there that I do not covet anything. He says here, in fact, Narsimha asks him, what boon do you want? Because he's so pleased with Prahalada. Prahalada says, I do not want any boon of any kind whatsoever, because one who asks for a boon from the Lord is a businessman. He says it's Vanika. He says, to say that I'm devoted to you, please give me this, even including give me liberation. Give me, as we saw earlier in that verse, Apunar Bhavam, freedom from the cycle of birth. All of these come only because of identification that I am born now. See, one of the things beautifully Ramana Maharshi would point out is when someone says past life, is past life true, next life true, how will I get rid of this cycle? He will say, find out if you are born now. See, that's a very powerful pointer, right? Normally, people will engage in this conversation of, oh, this is past life, next life, cycle of birth, cycle of death. All of that is finally an illusion, because this whole construct is based on this idea that I am a separate jiva. And the greatest wisdom is, as we already know, jivo brahmaiva naparaha. There is no jiva, there is only Brahman. The false idea that I am a jiva is what is going through this cycle. So what Ramana Maharshi would point out is, find out who is there now. Don't speculate about past life and next life. So that's why Prahalad says, asking for freedom from rebirth is also an illusion, because I have to be identified that I'm going through cycle of birth to ask for freedom from rebirth. There is nobody here except Bhagavan. Who can ask for freedom from rebirth? So that's why Prahalad says, there is not a thing I can ask you because you are everything. You are all there is. So Narasimha is so pleased with this devotion of Prahalad. See, this is the highest devotion, which is the pinnacle of wisdom too. That which does not ask a thing is devotion. When we are asking even anything, then the devotion is polluted by that desire. It can be even the most sattvic desire, but it's still a desire. When there is not a thing, see, there is a beautiful, I don't know if I mentioned this, but once someone asked Ramana Maharishi, if Shiva comes in front of you, riding his Nandi bull, and says, what boon would you ask? Someone had the gall to ask this question to Ramana Maharshi. And Ramana Maharshi said, the answer is so amazing. He said, I would say, don't come in a form like this and cheat me, go away. This is what he said, because any form in which you can conceptualize the Lord is only limited by our own conditioning. He is beyond all conditioning as the pure existence itself. So he says, don't ask a single boon because we don't know in what form. That's why it is said, Bhagavan can come in any form. In fact, all forms are Bhagavan. So we can have a particular identification with a particular form, but Krishna can come not playing a flute, but wearing, a regular set of clothes and playing a different instrument. See, we can never, our conditioning can only project based on what we are aware of. The divine is unlimited. As they say, the swatantra, the pure freedom. So he can come in any form, and in fact, he comes in all forms. But when he wants to bestow grace, he can come in any form to bestow grace. So in this way, Prahalad's story is so beautiful in its expression of devotion, and getting to the heart of Prahalad's story is the essence of Bhagavata Hrdayam, actually. If we get the essence of Prahalad's devotion, his wisdom, his compassion. See, the other thing Prahalad says, it's a beautiful verse, he says is, there are those, it says here, there are many ascetics who are desiring their own liberation and go to solitude. But I do not desire to be in solitude and be liberated alone. I want to share this compassion with all these people. See, he is sharing this with the boys who are demoniac in nature. That's compassion, right? He doesn't, so it's not about going to escaping from somewhere and going to being a recluse. He says, I want to just give this because there is so much joy, there's so much love, and people are unnecessarily suffering. I mean, Buddha said the same thing in a different way, very beautifully. Buddha said, everyone is suffering from this false self. So the only response is compassion. See, when you see anyone, they are the form of the Lord, as we saw. They are Bhagavat Swarupam, but they are not realizing it. And we are not realizing it too. So when we recognize that everyone's problem is only one problem, it's that they are taking themselves to be a separate self. And therefore, the only response, what is the only response then? That intelligent response is compassion. Because nobody is doing an evil act because they want to do it. Even the most heinous act is coming out of ignorance. So the root problem, that's why we don't talk about good and evil even. We only talk about wisdom and ignorance. It's avidya that's at the root of all evil. So evil is not the problem, avidya is the problem, ignorance. So compassion is the response to ignorance. So that's why Prahalad says, being compassionate and sharing this wisdom and love. And the other thing we see is how this wisdom and love are one and the same with Prahalad. He expresses the highest non-dual wisdom in the mood of ecstatic love. There is tears in Prahalad's eyes when he speaks about the Lord because it's the truth of everyone everywhere. And there is so much joy if we recognize this all-pervading presence of the Lord here and now. So to recognize this and to live in this wisdom is the unique grace of the story of Prahalad and Narasimha. So that's the true heart of Bhagavatam. one of the most favorite chapters of many, favorite episodes of many. So with that, seventh skanda ends. And then there is a beautiful discourse on dharma by Narada, which is very important too. We'll just briefly touch. Narada talks about the four varnas and ashramas. One important point to recognize there is that, see, when we talk of varna, we think there are four varnas and there are four types of people. But Narada also points out that in Satya Yuga, there are no varnas, right? Because all these classifications came only in Treta Yuga and then so on. And if you really look at it clearly, these yugas are not just outer times but inner states of mind too. See, Kali means conflict. When we live in conflict, we are living in Kali Yuga. When we live in truth, we are living in Satya Yuga. So, for let's say if you take Ramana Maharishi, he is in Satya Yuga. He's not in Kali Yuga because for him there is no conflict, right? So, outer time is only one aspect of this yuga. The inner time is more, and when this inner time is awakened in us, the Satya Yuga is awakened in us, then we can live in Satya Yuga wherever we are. And then we recognize that all the varnas are within us. So if you look at this beautiful verse of Purusha Suktam, see where it says, from the Purusha's head comes Brahmana, from the shoulder comes Kshatriya, from the gut comes Vaishya, and from the feet comes Shudra. People have taken this to create a hierarchy, right? But the right way to understand is, if we are holistic, then we are the Purusha, because it's the Purusha that's come in all our forms. So then what does it mean? Our head should be like a Brahmana, right? Our shoulder should be strong like a Kshatriya. Our gut should have the ability to take risk like a Vaishya. And our feet should be ready to work like a Shudra. So we have everything. So it's not about looking at others and this is what has caused so much calamity in Indian society by creating hierarchy and division and all of this. But the Purusha contains everything, and we are the Purusha. So if we want to live in Satya Yuga, then we recognize that we can be holistic. We can have the clarity of the head, the power of the shoulders, the ability to see why it's gut, because it requires us to take risks and live with clarity and be able to, the entrepreneurial spirit, for example, is gut instincts and so on. That's why it's pointing to the gut. And then the feet should work like a Shudra. So if we holistically embody everything, that is the Varna, right? All the Varnas are within us. So that's what is Satya Yuga. So Narada says, that's why very clearly, in fact, very emphatically says that it is not based on birth. This is a mistake that has come, and even Krishna says in Gita, as we know, Chaturvarnya Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagacha. So it's based on Guna and Karma, not on birth. So Narada emphasizes this, and he emphasizes also the four ashramas, which are the natural progression of life. We are students as brahmacharis. Then we are grihasthas, where we take care of these. The grihasthas are the ones who take care of society, basically. And then vanaprasthas are ones who are starting to give back. When you are ready to give back. At some point, normally it is said at 50, it's a good age to start giving back. So that's a very natural way of living life, right? You take care of your family, you make money, all the rest. But at 50, you have to say, now you can teach. You can give back in so many ways. You can share, you can engage in various activities. So this vanaprastha, but most importantly, focusing on self-knowledge. See, because all giving, if we engage in giving, which is rooted in identifying with the body, then we will do only very limited work. It's like saying saving the shirt of a drowning man. That's what we will do if we save from the bodily conception. If you want to save the real drowning person, which is the pure self, we have to recognize it. So true charity comes only through self-knowledge. And then sannyasa is this complete renunciation that is from a stages of life perspective. And Bhagavatam says it's only necessary for a few. Those who choose to live the life of a parivrajaka, who move around, they can take that life. But it's not for all. Then there is two famous stories in the 8th Skanda. Everybody knows about it. One is the story of Gajendra Moksha. Beautiful story again. Gajendra is this elephant who is completely enjoying life, right? His elephant represents enjoyment. So it's all very symbolic again, right? Because elephant represents sense pleasure. That's how we live. He's having his she elephants and he's enjoying life, and he's roaming around in the forest and being the lord of the forest and so on. But then one day he takes a bath with all his she elephants, making merry in the river, and a crocodile catches hold of his feet. And this crocodile is nothing but suffering that comes suddenly, comes and catches us, right? Suddenly, unaware, we get a bad news. One gets laid off, or one gets, something happens, right? Everything is going well, and then suddenly something happens out of the blue, out of the left field. That's the crocodile. It comes. And once the crocodile catches hold of his feet, this Gajendra yells out. He says a beautiful prayer. He says, Kshetrajnaya namastubhyam sarvadhyakshaya sakshine purushaya atmamulaya mula prakritaye namaha. This is the prayer he gives, offers to the Lord. He says, Mula prakritaye namaha, the root of all prakriti, Sakshi, the witness of all, Purushaya, the supreme being. I offer my obeisances to you, and please protect me, because I have all the powers I have, nothing can save me. See, so far he was completely uh, enamored with his own powers, with his wealth, with his wife, and with his children, and with his all this, which is how many people are, right? So Gajendra represents the consciousness that is caught in what is called as self-reliance, the egoic self-reliance, right? When we think I can manage everything, that ego is always knocked by something in life, which is the crocodile. And when that comes, then he surrenders completely. And then it is said that the Lord comes, Sudarshana Chakra, to cut the head of crocodile. And then Gajendra is saved in a very beautiful, sweet way. So it's a very devotional mood with Bhagavatam. Some people will say it's not in Bhagavatam, but it's a nice way. It says, Gajendra apparently complains to the Lord, because when the head of the crocodile is cut, the crocodile is liberated, so to speak. So Gajendra says, see, I called you, but you first gave liberation to the crocodile. How is this fair? And the Lord says, he says, see, you called me as my devotee, but this crocodile touched the feet of my devotee. So I have to first save that devotee's devotee, even though he touched your feet to hurt you. So it's a nice, sweet way to, see, this is the mood of devotion. When you serve the devotee, then you become even more dearer to the Lord than serving the Lord directly, it is said. That's why, because you can serve people directly, right? You cannot serve. Later also in Ambarish's story, the same thing comes. So in this way, Gajendra Moksha happens. And then Bali Maharaja's story is the other story of Bhagavatam, very powerful story, where Bali is a demon king, but he's a very pious demon king. He's a very nice king. See that many times. So Bali wins over Indra and so on, but he's ruling very righteously, and he has this guru Shukracharya, and he's doing a yajna. And Indra's mother, Aditi, she prays and prays to the Lord to re-establish Indra's reign. So he appears as the younger son of Indra, which is why he's called Upendra. Upendra is Vamana. So he appears as this dwarf Brahmana boy to Aditi, and then he grows instantly. It is said that he is given Upanayana immediately. And then he goes to this Yajnashala of Bali Maharaja, and he asks Bali Maharaja. Bali immediately worships him, welcomes him, and he says, what can I do you for? And once this question is asked, Vamana says, I want 3 paces of land. And Bali Maharaja laughs at him. He says, you are such a small boy, and you are asking 3 paces of land. How much can you measure? Please ask something. I'm the king of this whole universe. You can ask more. He says, no, I just want 3 paces of land. Immediately Shukracharya realizes who has come. So he takes him aside and says, this is not what you think who has come. This is a great deceit that has come. You are going to be robbed of everything. It is to re-establish Indra. So listen to me. Do not keep your word. And this is why we gave this example. Even if the guru says something which is against surrendering to the Lord, ignore him. So Bali Maharaj exemplifies it. He says, I have given my word, and if you are telling me that he is the supreme Lord who has come, and he is asking me what what more greatness can I think of? What can be greater than that? So I am going to do what I have said. I cannot stop myself, I cannot speak a lie, and I am going to give. So immediately Vamana becomes Trivikrama, he becomes this giant form, and with 1 foot he measures all of earth. It is said 1 foot he measures all of sky. And this is also symbolic. See, if you look at it, look at ourselves, we have earthly possessions. And then we have our sense of what we have done good, and our idea of heaven, which is nothing but the good karma that we have accrued, and we think that's our wealth. So all of this is what is taken away. So when in the moment of surrender, all your earthly possessions are taken away, all your karmas are also taken away. So both are taken away. 1 foot takes away the earth, 1 foot takes away the heaven. And then the third foot, Trivikrama asks, where shall I place it? And Bali Maharaj looks at him and he says, well, I have only one place to offer, my own head. So please take it. And then seeing this, Vamana or Trivikrama at this point is so pleased with him. And then he lifts his head but blesses him. And then at that point, he gives Bali this benediction that he will be living forever. And so he is sent to this nether world, and he is given. But the symbolism of Bali offering his own head is Atma Nivedana. That is, it is not enough if we offer. See, it is not just our earthly possessions that belong to the Lord. It is not just our karmas. It's our very self. There is nothing here other than Him. That is the symbolism of every story of Bhagavatam. Here, it is brought out as Bali recognizing and offering his own life, the very self, the very possessor. See, that's why a beautiful expression Ramana Maharshi said, I have to surrender everything. Somebody said, oh, so you are saying I have to surrender everything. Ramana said, yes, I'm the one who surrenders to. You have to surrender the one who surrenders. So that is what Bali Maharaja does. It is not just that I surrender my wealth, surrender my this, surrender my that. The subject who surrenders is also to be surrendered. That's what say, surrender the surrenderer too. That's what he said. So that's exactly what Bali Maharaj symbolizes. Surrender the surrenderer. So with that Bali Maharaja story ends. And then the last skanda we want to cover today, ninth skanda, where ninth skanda is basically a description of Ikshvaku dynasty, pretty much, which is the dynasty of Sri Ram. And it's such a beautiful story. The one of the famous kings that described is Ambarish. We mentioned briefly. Ambarish is a king who lives so piously, rules so piously. He offers everything he has for the Supreme. So it is said that when he does anything he does, his feet are used to serve the Lord, his hands are used to serve, every sense is engaged only in the worship of the Supreme. And so in this situation, what happens is once the sage Durvasa comes, and Durvasa is always known to bring grace through negative actions. He is actually a great sage because he always brings out grace eventually, though outwardly he does what seems to be nasty action. So he comes and it's an Ekadashi day, and Ambarish is fasting, and fast has to be broken at a particular time, and Durvasa is delaying and coming back from his ablutions. So Ambarish takes a glass of water to break the fast, but Durvasa gets angry at it, and he says, you broke the fast and you had something before serving your Atithi, so therefore I am going to kill you. So he sends a weapon to kill Ambarish. But Ambarish is such a pure devotee that the very Sudarshana Chakra, it says, comes and starts attacking, not only kills that weapon, but starts attacking Durvasa. And Durvasa runs everywhere, seeking refuge. And then finally he reaches Vaikuntha, it is said, and he offers surrender to the Lord. And he says, please protect me from Ambarisha, from Sudarshana, which is coming from Ambarisha's presence. And very beautifully there, Bhagavatam says, the Lord says, I cannot do anything, because he says, Aham Bhakta Paradino. I am, when it comes to my devotees, I have no power. Only though your only place for receiving protection is Ambarish himself. So the one person he did not ask protection from is Ambarish. He went to Kailasha, he went to Brahmaloka, he went here, there, he came to Vaikunta. But finally he was told, go to Ambarish. So Ambarish, he goes to Ambarish, and Ambarish immediately, his ocean of compassion, he says he's ashamed, actually, it says. Bhagavatam says, Ambarish is ashamed that a great sage is asking him even. He says, order me, why are you? And then he offers this prayer to Sudarshana, and Sudarshana goes itself. And this particular, there's a beautiful verse, Sudarshana, on Sudarshana, you know, Jai Jai Shri Sudarshana. That prayer is actually composed much later, but it's for this episode. It signifies this episode. And then after that comes the beautiful story of Ramayana. So Ramayana is mentioned in Bhagavatam very simply in 2 chapters. We all know the story of Ramayana. In fact, Shuka Brahman himself says, he refers to Valmiki. He says, Valmiki has spoken of it, Parikshit, and you know about it. So I don't need to repeat it here. He just, in a Sankshipta form, he says what happens in Ramayana. The whole story is very beautiful. As we all know, Ramayana is this, we can talk for hours just on the story of Ramayana, Valmiki's Ramayana especially, because that is the source, by the way. See, there are many other Ramayanas that have come later, which are all written in different modes, but the source is Valmiki, which is the essence. And there he beautifully describes how this young princess, Rama and Lakshmana, they are taken by Vishwamitra to the forest, and there they kill these demons, and then they are taken to Mithila, and then Mithila they go to this kingdom of Janaka, where there is this beautiful princess Sita, and they have this Shiva Dhanush, and so this Shiva Dhanush has to be broken, lifted and wielded rather, in order to marry Sita. Nobody is able to even lift it, because Valmiki describes that 100 people bring the Dhanush. It's so powerful, so heavy. But Ram enters and he simply takes it, and immediately it breaks. And everybody is so happy, ecstatic. And then Dasharatha and all the people get the news. They all come to Mithila, and this beautiful Vivaham of Sita Ram Vivaham happens. And then along with that also Lakshmana marries Urmila, and Bharata and Shatrughna also marry the sisters, Mandavi and Shrutakirti. And then they all go back, and then after they go back, Ram is beloved by all. Everyone wants Ram to be the next king. So Dasharatha is also too happy to make it happen. And Vasishtha is consulted with, and Vasishtha immediately says, let's do it tomorrow. So they fix a muhurta, but then at that time, as we all know, Kaikeyi's mind is poisoned by her friend Manthara, and so she asks for the 2 boons she had, which is to send Ram to the forest and make Bharata the next prince, the Yuvaraj. And so this is asked, and again there beautifully, Ram, when he is told this by Kaikeyi that your father wants you to go, he says, Mother, you tell me. You don't have to tell that, I will take your order. It doesn't have to be that Dasharatha has to say, because Kaikeyi is also his mother. He says, so he happily goes, he leaves and then when he wants to leave, everybody comes behind him. So he goes in this chariot, and everybody follows him in the chariot, to the point where Ram has to use a deceit to escape. So in the middle of, because the whole of citizenry has come with Ram. So when they are outside, Ram realizes there is no way we can escape these people. So he tells this his charioteer, Sumantra, he says, in the middle of the night, take the chariot and then ride it towards Ayodhya and then go back without any trace. So they all get up in the morning, they see the chariot prince and it's going towards Ayodhya. So they think the Ram went back to Ayodhya, but he went away. So they all got effectively cheated. That's why they complain in the end, you cheated and left us. So he goes to the forest, he meets Bharadwaja, and then he goes, and then, as we all know, they live in the forest, and then Ravana comes sending this golden deer, and Sita asks Lakshmana to leave when Ram has gone to look for the deer, and in the process Ravana comes, abducts her, and then after Ram comes back with Lakshmana, they don't find Sita, then Jatayu tells, and then they follow the direction, And then they come to Kishkinda, where they first meet this very nice Brahmana looking person, which is actually Hanuman. They first meet him and he speaks very precisely, and then he realizes that because he thinks anyone who's coming there is possibly messengers of Wali, so he's very loyal to Sugriva at that time. When he realizes that these are Ram and Lakshman, his eternal Lord, so he takes them to Sugriva, they forge a friendship, Wali is killed, then they are all sent south in different directions. Hanuman is given the special ring to go south, and then they all reach the banks of the ocean shore. And then we all know that Hanuman crosses the ocean, being reminded by Jambavan. See, there, in fact, they are ready to give up the body because they think it's all over. But Sampati, who's the brother of Jatayu, tells them that Ravana went across the ocean. So Hanuman goes and he meets Sita, gives the good news, and then after that, he plunders this Ashokavana first, and then he uh, unleashes terror in Lanka by putting Lanka to fire. And then he comes back, and then, as we all know, the Setu, he gives the good news to Ram that Sita is there, well and alive. And then they all go back. And there are so many sweet episodes there, it's hard to go into all of that. How these monkeys come and they actually plunder a forest. And when they plunder a forest, Sugriva, everybody thinks, how dare they plunder the forest? But Sugriva knows if they plunder the forest, that means they have good news. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare plunder it. So Sugriva says, okay, this is good news. And then when they come back, they give the good news, and then the army goes south, and then they build the bridge. They go, as we know, there is this Yuddham, and Ravana is defeated. Kumbhakarna first, Indrajit, Ravana, all are killed, and then they come back, and then there is this beautiful Pattabhishekam where they enter. When they enter, Bharata is waiting on the outskirts, and they enter this city of Ayodhya, and there it's such a beautiful scene that Shuka Brahmam also describes in Bhagavatam, where they are seated on this chariot with an umbrella, and there is Hanuman, there is Angada, there is Vibhishana, there is Bharata, Shatrughna, and Lakshman. They are all seated. The waters of the oceans are brought, the rivers are brought, and Ram is given a bath in that waters, and then they put the crown on Ram, and it is said that Ram is shining like the moon surrounded by the stars. That is why he is Ramachandra. See, he is born in Surya Vamsha, but in that particular scene, you can envision Ram is surrounded by all these stars. They are all stars, and in the middle is the moon, Ramachandra. So with this, Ramayana is described in Bhagavatam, and with that, Navamaskanda ends. And then we enter Dashamaskanda or rather, at the end of Navamaskanda, Shuka Brahmam gives an indication of what's coming. He says, now, see, this long you have to wait to come to Krishna Katha, because it is so precious. You cannot just enter Krishna Katha. So it's 9 skandhas of all this nectar prepares the mind to receive, because Krishna Katha, if it is simply listened to, you would think it is just some entertainment and all that. There is so much depth in it, so much joy in it, so much love in it. It is entered through this journey. And when we enter now Dashamaskandha in this way, then we receive Dashamaskandha properly. So Shuka Brahmam says, finally, he says that once mind has arrived at the right conclusion, when one has developed the desire to listen to the pastimes of Krishna, that is the essence of Bhagavatam. To come to that, we have to recognize this Hrdayam of Bhagavatam. When we recognize this Hrdayam of Bhagavatam, then we enter this, and here Shuka Brahman beautifully says the purpose of appearance, as we all know in Gita also, Krishna says, Dharma Sansthapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. That is only the outer purpose. The inner purpose is bestowing grace through the pastimes, the names, the forms, the leelas, all of which give us the nectar of Krishna Katha, Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Leela, Dhama, as it is said. All of this are given through the avatar, and this nectar of avatar of Krishna Katha is what Shuka Brahman is going to now describe in the 10th skandha, which is the longest skandha. having prepared through 9 skandhas the Bhagavata Hrdayam, which can now receive this nectar, the cream of 10 skandha, which is Krishna Katha. So with this, we end the 9th skandha and we end this 3-part series of Bhagavata Hrdayam. And we have, through this great opportunity, been able to soak in the nectar of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is such that it can be spoken for days and days. One story like Gajendra Moksham can be gone into, and so on and so forth. But in the time we have covered all the 9 skandhas and all the main stories, and most importantly, the essence of Bhagavatam, the Hrdayam, as we said in the beginning, which is the pure, unconditional, loving devotion, which is true wisdom. The Ahaituki Bhakti, which is Swarupa Jnanam. Both are together. And to awaken that Ahaituki Bhakti and Swarupa Jnanam, which are one and the same, is the essence of Bhagavatam. As we saw Prahalad say, seeing every form as the form of Bhagavan is the highest purpose of human life. And when we see that and we act in that consciousness, where each moment we are in the presence of the sacred, then we are living Bhagavata Dharma. So with this, we end this Bhagavata Shravanam. I cannot thank enough Ishwar for providing this opportunity and organizing this so beautifully. It is such a great blessing to go into Bhagavatam with all of you. So thank you so much. Maybe if there are 5 minutes, if there is any comments or anything to conclude, most welcome to share.
Can I say a few words?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So we have one thing I want to say is that we were debating what should be the, not debating, we were discussing what should be the title for the series. We knew it was about Bhagavatam, we knew it was prelude to Dashma Skandam, we wanted to do in Anil's house. But then after listening to Suresh ji in other forums for some time, I think I was in California that time when we had a phone call.
Yeah.
That time it was very clear to me that it has to be Bhagavata Hrdayam. That's it. Because Hrdayam iti Hrdayam, that is one meaning, Vyatpatti. That itself means that is center. I mean that which pulls you towards the center, or that which is your center. In the Ribu Gita, there is one phrase where I saw, which is Chamatkar, Hridantarantaraha. Hrid Antaraha means inside the heart. Hridantara. It is inside of the heart. So that is how Ribu Gita referred in particular. That actually means that the goal of life, we should have that Shuddhi should be there. The goal of life is self-realization or God realization. That Lakshya Shuddhi must be there, like Arjuna's Lakshya Shuddhi. And I'm actually amazed by the Bhagavad Anugraham that Sureshji has, and through Sureshji we all have. I think after Narayana Bhattatri, I don't think anybody has been successful in compressing Bhagavatam into such a thing, and still not miss the Lakshyam. That is very important, because Lakshyam is not there, it is all, right? We are carrying a lot of information, right? But when information and conviction cannot be separated, it means there is some divine grace is there. Yeah. So when he is delivering and we are receiving, there is no pratibandha there, right? For that, we have to pray to Lakshmi Narasimha Swami Kripa.
Yes.
This has happened very smoothly. So again, I wanted to thank Suresh ji on behalf of everybody.